California. And I got a job working for Hewlett Packard in the sales office. And because I don't know how to type, I spit. Because I don't know how to type, but they really like me. Because in the sales office, you have a lot of customers coming in.
Recording.
And you have to make a good impression,
Okay.
on the customers. So everything was like appearance. Our office was really pretty and all of that. So one of my jobs was to pick up the boss after lunch when he was too shit-faced to drive.
Okay.
And another one of my jobs every Friday was to get the fleet of cars washed, so they'd be all nice and clean for Monday. And another one of my jobs was when they got busy to help answer the phones. We had a big book, and all the parts that Hewlett Packard makes were listed by number. Like the pocket calculator was the HP 35. It had just come out. Pocket calculators were unheard of. So I'm answering phone calls, and I get a phone call, and this guy asked me if we had this certain part, like the HP 200. So I'm looking it up in the book. I said, yes, we do have it. He said, oh man, I really need that part. Like, I need it tonight. Is there any way you can bring it downtown? Meaning downtown San Francisco. I said, well, where are you at? And he gave me an address. I don't know what address. And I said, well, yeah, I can deliver it to you, Oh, man, I would really appreciate it. He goes, my name is Bear. I wrote down Bear. And he says, and this is my address. And he goes, and I'll meet you outside. He goes, we're having a recording session, and we blew out this part, and we really need it. Now, you have to remember, I really wasn't into the Grateful Dead. I was into acid rock, like Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and all of that. I said, my name is Bear. I'm the sound guy for the Grateful Dead. We're having a recording session, and we need this part. Okay, so I got the part, went down, drove down to downtown San Francisco. He was waiting for me. Nice-looking guy, my age. And I went in this, warehouse, and the Grateful Dead were having a recording session. And so he asked me if I wanted to stay for the recording session, and I said, yeah. So I gave him the part, and I sat down, and they were all recording. And then they had a little break. They came and introduced themselves, and, blah, blah, blah. They were smoking weed, but I didn't smoke. I didn't want any weed. But I said, well, do you have any Coke? Yeah, we have Coke. I said I prefer Coke to weed. So we did a little Coke. And so after the recording session, they were going to go back to their place. They lived in Marin County.
Okay.
I said, I can't. I'm married. My husband's going to wait for me and stuff. And this guy, Bear, he goes, well, I'd really like to see you again. Could we, arrange something? And I said, yeah. So we arranged to meet again. And this time, I went to their house in Marin County, and it was like a commune. It was like a bunch of people lived there. But Bear and I kind of got together. I liked him. He liked me. My marriage was kind of on the rocks anyway. And we started dating. And Bear introduced me. Now, he was the sound guy for the Grateful Dead. He introduced me to a guy named Owsley Stanley. And Owsley was brilliant. He made Owsley acid. His was like prior to Timothy Leary.
Mm-hmm.
Owsley acid came out first, and it was the best acid, the best, clean, no body rush. I mean, it was really nice. And so I just started going out with them, hanging out with them. They invited me to go to concerts. I asked Larry if he wanted to go. He never wanted to go. So I started going by myself, you know, and would go to different clubs. They'd play their gig or whatever. And then we'd go out afterwards. And I had a really good time. They were really, really nice.
Sure.
They really, they really, they really were. But the fact that I was married was really got in the way. Because I didn't want to do anything like to hurt Larry. But we weren't in love with each other anymore. We both knew it.
Mm-hmm.
He was dating other women. And I knew it, and I didn't care. So I basically moved in with them. I was still working at Hewlett-Packard, but I was living in Marin. And they started getting big, really big. And they started cutting albums, you know, with other big acts like Janis Joplin and Country Joe and the Fish, who you probably never heard of. And I can't remember all the names now. But anyway, I went on tour with them. You know, when I could get the time off work.
Yeah.
Now, remember, Larry was a trust fund baby. He didn't need money. His grandfather was president of Lenox China. Have you ever heard of Lenox China? His grandfather was the CEO of Lenox China. So Larry never had to work a day in his life. He was still going to school when we got married, and he was 22, and he was still in college, grad school. And so I just started touring with him, you know, and we really had a lot of fun. We had a lot of parties. One year we went to a really, really fantastic Halloween party in the city of San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you have to remember.
Do you remember what you were? You dressed up as?
I dressed up as Indian squaw.
Okay.
But I had a real baby. I had a papoose. I don't know whose baby it was.
What? How'd you get a baby?
I don't know. Somebody put a baby in there. You know, I had the papoose. I had a doll. But they took the doll out and they put a baby in. So I'm walking around with somebody's baby in my papoose. Now, I'm sure the mother was there somewhere, but I don't know. I don't know which one was the mother.
And you were with Bear?
We were so wasted. And I was with Bear.
And what was he?
He was, I remember he had wings. He was either a pixie or the devil. I can't remember. But I remember he had wings, you know, because he was like flapping his wings around. And Jerry Garcia went as, you know, the album Sympathy for the Devil. Remember the Mick Jagger with the album was Big Lips on the cover? That's what he went as, a pair of big lips.
Okay.
Some of these costumes were, I mean, but they were really, they sound weird, but they were really good.
How did he pull that off?
I'm not sure, Ben. He just had he was just a big lip.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, and the tongue, too. Somehow he made the tongue go in and out. I don't know. I mean, everybody was really creative,
Yeah.
you know.
What was the furthest you ever toured with them,
The furthest,
or one of the best concerts that you remember?
Seattle.
Seattle.
It was fantastic. It was at a venue that was a pretty good sized venue. And on the venue with us was Santana. So, like, we weren't the opening act by
Okay.
any means. And Santana wasn't the opening act either. I want to say, like, who was the guy from the Eagles?
Roger Waters.
We get a peaceful, easy feeling. No, he was the lead singer of the Eagles. He was the opening act. And then we were like the third, the warm up act and stuff. But, I mean, it was the 60s, man. It was just like, I don't even know what we did for money. I mean, we just always had money, and we always had food, and we always had a place to stay.
It was the Grateful Dead.
It was the Grateful Dead. Yeah.
And how long did you live with them or tour with them?
About 10 months, 9, 10 months.
Almost a year?
Almost a year. And then I got divorced. And then I came back to Chicago. I got hired with United.
And did you ever talk to any of them again?
Mm-hmm. In fact, I had been flying with United about 2 years, and I had them on my flight. And they were sitting in first class, and everybody, it was a DC-10. I want to go out and see what these guys are doing. It was a DC-10, and everybody was going, oh my God, do you know who we have on board? We have on the Grateful Dead. We have the Grateful Dead. Jerry Garcia's on board. And I was working in coach, so I went up to first class, and they were all sitting up there. And we were like hugging each other, and everybody was like, do you know them? And I'm like, know them? I know them in the biblical sense. So I said to the guys, come on, you're not just going to sit there. I gave them my apron. I borrowed aprons from the other flight attendants. I put the aprons on. Bob Weir, Jerry Garcia, they all had the flight attendant aprons. One's name was Sheila. And I gave them trays to pass out.
Yeah. They had fun doing it?
They loved it. They had a blast doing it. They weren't very coordinated, but they each had a tray in each hand, and they would, come through with their trays and put them on the tray tables. And the passengers were like, isn't that Jerry Garcia? Yeah, but it says Sheila. It was great.
That's
It was
great.
great. Come on, let's go see what they're doing.